Hey guys, welcome back. Did you know that at the end of Halo 3, 343 Guilty Spark doesn't actually die? Well, the monitor does, but what makes Spark doesn't die. So today we are going to look at how this happened, and also what happened to Guilty Spark after Halo 3. But first we've got to address the massive elephant in the room here. If you want to get straight to the video, then just go to the time on screen right now, but holy fuck, we hit 100k subscribers. That is, like, genuinely life-changing for me. This is, it's honestly surreal. I can't thank you guys enough. There's too many people that I need to thank for helping me get here, from real-life friends to YouTube friends to 343 employees and so many more. You guys are the fucking best, like, legit. I've got some plans in the works for a 100k special video, and although it's very likely not going to be out for quite a while, let me just say that it is going to be fucking lit. I promise you that it will be spectacular. Perfection takes time. Just keep that in mind. In the meantime, I will have a pretty fucking dope announcement in maybe the next 2 weeks or so regarding 100k, but for now, thank you for helping me get this far. And here's to 1 million subs. Holy shit, that's the next milestone. That feels weird. So, let's get on to some Halo lore. What happened to Guilty Spark at the end of Halo 3? Well, when Chief lasered him after he took our boy Johnson from us, which I'm still sad about, to be perfectly real with you, his metal casing ends up becoming unstable and explodes into a million fucking pieces, all of which were left on Installation 08 when it exploded above the Ark. When the ring exploded, pieces of it fell down and were scattered over the Ark, and somewhere among that rubble was the carcass of the seemingly dead 343 Guilty Spark. But then, almost a year later, in November of 2553, the UNSC detected a faint transmission from the Ark, and they had no idea what it was. So they sent the UNSC Rubicon to the Ark, which was a ship under Oni's umbrella. When they got there, a remote contact team went down to the surface of the Ark and found the source of the transmission, and then took it back on board the ship. What they didn't know was that they'd just taken the barely working remains of Guilty Spark back aboard their only way back home. Using an AI translator, the crew began to interrogate Spark about his origins, and as he was in the presence of the Reclaimers, the true heirs of the Mantle of Responsibility, he obliged. So, what did Spark tell them? What is Guilty Spark's origin? Well, to cut a very long story short, before Spark was a monitor, he was actually an ancient human, born on Earth during the Forerunner-Flood War. Along with the Isodidact and a Florian creature called Riser, Chakas went and awoke the Didact, who then took the group away on his ship, leading Chakas to getting caught right in the centre of the Forerunner-Flood War during its most heated stage. He could not have picked a worse time to wake up the leader of the Forerunner military. One thing led to another, and ultimately Chakas found himself on Installation 07 after it had been taken over by the then rampant mendicant bias, and the ring was on a collision course with a planet due to failsafe measures that had been activated, given that the ring had been compromised and fallen into enemy hands. Ultimately, the Didact and his fleet showed up, and managed to get control of the ring back, and Chakas managed to just steer the Halo away from the planet, so it didn't get fully destroyed, but it was still heavily damaged, and Chakas was knocked unconscious. When he woke up, he was on life support, because the damage that he'd sustained from both the damage to the ring, and also his torture by mendicant bias, his body was never going to work again. So his mind would have to be salvaged and then converted into a monitor and stored inside the typical monitor casing. And that's the very short story of how Guilty Spark transitioned from an ancient human, aka Chakas, to a floating light bulb. Now, before we go forward, just remember that Guilty Spark used to be called Chakas. That's going to be very important later on. Anyways, back to 2553. While Spark was telling the ship crew his long-ass origin story, some of which wasn't exactly accurate because of his multiple accounts of compartmentalization and severe damage, he was secretly assessing the ship's terminals and information stores without the crew realizing. This specifically helped him regain the memory of what happened in his recent interactions with the humans during the Human Covenant War, aka pretty much everything that happened since he met Master Chief. But he also did this with an ulterior motive in mind. Once he'd finished telling Oni pretty much everything he could about his backstory, his shell finally died and he was thrown out of the ship into space by the crew, and everyone thought that was the final end of 343 Guilty Spark's story. Until the ship's AI was suddenly disabled and all control of the ship was lost. Spark had actually managed to upload his data stream into the ship's computer system and was now in total control of the ship, with only one goal in mind. After lots of research, he'd come to the conclusion that the librarian, who was the only life shaper in the entire Forerunner ecumene, was actually still alive, and he was intent on finding her. He put the entire crew into cryosleep and set a course for where he believed her to be. But there's one problem here. The librarian is 100% dead. Anybody who knows the story of the Forerunner-Flood War knows that she died on Earth, and that what we saw of her in Halo 4 was simply just a hologram, an imprint. So who the fuck is Spark actually going after then? Well, my money, and seemingly the entire Halo community's money, is on Chant to Green, a Forerunner life worker who was given the role of life shaper by the librarian in the final hours of the war. She then went on to be one of the few Forerunners to survive the firing of the Halo array and ultimately the Forerunner-Flood War, and ended up living on an unknown planet outside of the Milky Way galaxy with the Isodidact. The last we heard was that the two had had a son together and they were living pretty happily, technology free. And if Spark, technically now Chakas again, is looking for the life shaper, this mystery planet is pretty much going to be where he's headed. Will we see more Chakas in the future, maybe even in the games? Well, I'd assume so, and I have some very good news to back this up. During a roundtable talk by a bunch of the writers at 343 just before Halo 5 launched, Frank O'Connor literally said that they have a redemption story arc planned for Guilty Spark, so maybe we'll see him in the future sometime, that is, if the entire story hasn't been completely changed up after Halo 5. Sadly, that's always a possibility, for better or worse. So, would you like to see our friendly neighbourhood lightbulb back in action in the games again? Let me know in the comments, because I sure as hell know that I would do. Okay, so I want to give a big thank you, as per usual, to the patrons ArdentPrayer, Tomahawk, Jack Madden, and Chris G, along with everybody else who supports over on Patreon. As promised, here are 3 of the spiciest memes straight from the Patreon Discord. Without a doubt, the best reason to become a Patreon supporter. Who doesn't want their memes shared in the video? Again, I just want to give a massive thank you to everybody for 100k subs. Just reading that number out loud feels ridiculous, it feels surreal. I still kind of can't believe it. The special 100k stuff is on the way, and I can promise you that it is going to be fucking sick. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next one.